Hi, Premier. Liam Casey with the Canadian Press.
Hi.
The Auditor General said you and the Housing Minister didn't know what Minister Clark's Chief of Staff was doing with the Greenbelt project. How did both of you not know?
Well, I look at it, we run a $204 billion a year operation. I have trust in my ministers, I have trust in our caucus, and I have trust in our staff. And I found out the day it was going to cabinet, and that's not unusual for a premier to find out what's going on the day before you go, the day of when we go into cabinet. And that's when I found out. I approved it. At the end of the day, I take full responsibility for the process. But I can tell you, we have a housing crisis, the likes of which this province and this country has never seen before. And the reason we have a housing crisis, because we have economic growth, the likes of which this province has never seen before. People choose Ontario from around the world to come here, raise a family, to start a business, to start a better life. And as I mentioned earlier, 504,000 people landed in Ontario last year. So that leaves 600,000 people that landed everywhere else in the country. Well, folks, I will put my bottom dollar on it. 40 to 50% of the balance of the 600,000 eventually will come to Ontario, because that's where the growth is. That's the quality of life. No better place in the world than right here in Ontario.
I'd like to give the Minister a chance to respond too.
Sure.
So we were given a clear mandate by the people in June, and I was given a clear mandate, as the Premier stated, to get a plan in place to build homes and build them as fast as possible. We're in the middle of a housing supply crisis. It's a severe crisis, and our severity required us to act quickly. I acknowledge the recommendations in the Auditor General's report that indicate that we need to make some changes. I respect that. I agree with those recommendations, and I will implement them. I've been very clear about when I knew about the properties. It was the week before it was presented to Cabinet. But I have a very huge mandate for the government. I've delivered housing supply action plans. I've delivered strong mayors. I've delivered housing pledges for our municipalities. And the government has had results, as the Premier alluded to. The severity of the crisis dictated our government acting quickly. I recognize the changes that are recommended in this report, and I acknowledge that we need to implement them as soon as possible.
Premier,
yes.
Did you or the Housing Minister or anyone connected to the government or your party receive any benefit personally from opening
Absolutely
up the Greenbelt?
not. 100% not.
Absolutely not.
Premier, it's Richard Southern with City News 680. It seems like you're admitting that some mistakes were made by your government today. You know, you say the buck stops with you, there
Yes.
are areas for improvement. Can you be specific with Ontarians this afternoon about exactly what was done wrong?
Well, I think the report says what was done wrong. The process should have been better, and I'm admitting the process should have been better. But when you're in a housing crisis, when you have an inferno happening, you know, the firefighters run to the fire. They don't run away from it. In my position, I have to deal with the crisis. Because every single day moving forward and every day before this, I'll get in front of the media, get in front of the people, and what are you doing about housing? Every day when I met people, it's not about, I'll be very frank, it's not about the Greenbelt. Almost every question is, my children can't afford the $1.2 million it costs for an average home in Toronto and the GTA. What are we going to do? Majority of the grandparents, parents, and friends are the ones supporting young people to buy a home that they can't afford and never will afford unless it comes down to supply and demand. We're going to continue building homes. We're seeing unprecedented growth to a tune of in excess, and I'm being very conservative when I say 500,000 people a year, because we know the other people that land across the country, if they continue on this pace of 1.1 million people, they're coming to Ontario, because that's where the growth is, that's the quality of life.
For Minister Steve Clark, Minister, it's hard for anyone that follows anything in this building to believe, I think, that you would not know what your Chief of Staff is doing on such a big file. How did you not know? And are you asking for that Chief of Staff's resignation? And have you talked to the Premier about resigning yourself from this portfolio, sir.
I appreciate the confidence that the Premier has in me and my staff. I'm fully committed to the problems in the process that led us here to this report. And I'm committed to ensuring that the 14 recommendations will move forward and will move forward quickly. But at the same time, we have a generation of Ontarians that are getting pushed farther and farther away from realizing the dream of homeownership. We need to continue to move forward on our housing supply action plans, on our strong mayor proposals, on our housing pledges, and on intensifying around transit. All of those principles, we need to continue to move forward. The Premier has highlighted the growth that our province is experiencing. We have to have a housing supply plan that meets that goal.
Hi there, Alan Hale from Queen's Park today. So just to be clear, this chief of staff is keeping his job?
I appreciate the support that the Premier has given to me and my team. We are going to deliver on these recommendations to the people of Ontario to add trust into the system and to provide that transparency that the report talks about. We will continue. All of my staff will continue to work with and support the Integrity Commissioner's investigation and the recommendations that are in this report that pertain to the Integrity Commissioner. We will continue, my entire team, to work with him moving forward.
Mr. Premier,
Yes.
you criticized the last changes to the Greenbelt as being the result of, obviously how we put it, a bunch of Liberal staffers with crayons in a back room. But it seems like in this case, the changes were mostly decided by packets at a party.
Well,
Can you please explain why you guys, for months and months and months, denied that there was any problem here until it literally had to be dragged out of you by an Auditor General report? How can anybody in Ontario believe when you say there's no problem, and how can we be sure that you're just not gaslighting everybody?
Alan, the Premier's already addressed the information. There is a big difference between receiving information than advancing government policy before it has been decided. The Premier's acknowledged we receive information from a wide variety of sources. I can think most question periods, I receive an envelope from someone in the legislature about a particular plan, many of the times from the opposition. Regardless, the information that is in this report, the recommendations regarding how we receive information, is extremely important to us. And again, we will implement those recommendations to bring that transparency back into the system.
I would still like to hear from the Premier on this.
Well, I'll just repeat what the minister said. We could be sitting in the legislature and members of the opposition will come up and say, here's a proposal. I'm not against that. The best ideas come from outside the government that people will send in, no matter what government it is, by the way, will send in proposals to a certain minister or my office. It goes through the process and we look at it. And if it's a good recommendation, then we sit down and discuss it. But if it's not a good recommendation, then we don't move on it. But this all goes back to affordability. The number one issue facing Ontarians right now is affordability. We see gas prices jacked up. We see people losing their home because the interest rates were jacked up, that I'm dead against, and the speed they were jacked up from the Bank of Canada and the governor from the Bank of Canada. That's unacceptable. I've heard story after story, and I know the media's heard story after story. The last one I heard is about a woman up in Barrie that used to pay, I think it was $2,400 on her mortgage, now paying over $6,000. Her husband works 2 jobs, she's working 2 jobs, and they can't afford it, and they have to sell their dream house that they've worked their back off. That's what's affecting people. When they go to the grocery store and they see the prices going up, that's what people are concerned about. And then, be it the young families that need to buy something, that's what affects people. When they have to rent a place and they don't have enough rentals, that is what affects each and every one of us, including the people in the media. They have families, they have young families. And they're gonna go to you, your kids, and say, you know, Mom, Dad, I need a deposit. I need a deposit of $250,000 because the home we're looking at, a small little bungalow, is $120,000. And by the way, if I go to a condo, and usually about 600 square feet, downtown is about $800,000. They can't afford it. The only way we fix this problem is supply and demand, at least to level it off, and make sure that we have homes for newcomers coming here, no matter if they're rentals, nonprofit, affordable housing, attainable housing. That's what we need, and that's exactly what our government's going to do.
Hey, Premier Minister, it's Charlie Pinkerton of the Trillium. Minister, my first question is for you. In the report, you say that you were unaware of what your chief of staff was working on. However, on, I believe it's September 27th or 29th, you received an email from a lawyer representing one of the developers whose lands were later removed. If sent to your email, how can both of these things be true?
If I understand the email in question, it was referred to the government email and it was referred to the public service. I never saw the email. I receive, again, just like the Premier said, I receive emails all the time regarding ERO postings, regarding consultations that the government has. I receive unsolicited emails to all the accounts. Every time they're received, they're forwarded to the public service to review. And in this case, if I understand the email you're talking about, that was immediately sent. I never saw the email.
All right, and Premier, this question is for you.
Yes.
If one unelected political staffer in charge of a group of public servants in a short period of time can, at the behest of a small group of individuals who are going to make several billions of dollars off of a decision, direct these public servants to come up with this plan that then makes its way through cabinet and is approved that way, if that is the process of how things work, how can Ontarians trust the government's decision-making?
Well, Charlie, what I did say, we will take 14 of the 15 recommendations from the report. And I've directed my staff to immediately action those items. And we're going to make sure that 14 of the 15 are going to be covered off. And that's what we're going to end up doing, making sure the process is a lot clearer. I take full responsibility if the process wasn't. At the end of the day, Charlie, people, be it yourself or anyone else in this room, need to be able to afford a home or an afforded rental or buy a condo. And right now, it's unaffordable for the vast majority of the population unless they inherit a house or apartment or a condo from their parents.
Premier, if the housing crisis was so urgent, why didn't you move to expropriate the 7,400 acres and open up that land rather than let some progressive, conservative, connected developers make, in one case, on one parcel, potentially $6 billion? We wouldn't be here today if you'd just done that. Do you regret not doing something like that, expropriating the land so that the housing could be built more quickly?
Rob,
Go ahead,
the
Minister.
Premier and I have been very clear on this report and the recommendations to improve the process. We are committed to the 14 recommendations to make a more transparent process moving forward. We've been very clear that there needs to be a better process to how the government and all ministries receive information. We concur with the Auditor General's recommendation, but at the end of the day, we also are in the middle of a housing supply crisis, and we need to ensure that we do everything possible to get shovels in the ground to build at least 1.5 million homes. We have to continue with our housing supply action plans. We have to continue to intensify around transit as part of our transit-oriented communities program. The government needs to move forward. The Premier makes an exceptional point. There's two choices. You either continue to build or you don't. We've stated very clearly, in addition to fixing the process, we're going to build.
Premier, do you regret not expropriating the land instead of allowing some Tory-connected developers to make billions of dollars?
No, I don't regret that. I want homes built. As soon as government starts getting involved in, the home building industry, That's unacceptable. You let the market dictate. Folks, this is about process. We're going to correct the process.